Hi guys, just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Harsh Sonawala. I passed out in AIM in 2010, did my MBA there. Um, and I have for the last 9 years, I've been running a travel company called India Someday. We are a personalized travel company that helps people travel across India, as the name suggests. And it's not restricted to any region in India. It's across India, pan India, wherever you want to go and however you want to travel. So either a backpacker to a luxury traveler. That's uh, that's how we have set up the company. So today I am going to be doing a quick presentation, after which obviously we can have a longer question and answer session. But a quick presentation on just what are the current travel trends that are going on in the industry, or what were going on in the industry, uh, and um, what type of different travelers there are currently in the market, uh, and what changes have happened in the industry to the current scenario and what could be there going forward for the industry. So yeah, just gonna start up. Can all of you see uh, the the screen, the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Um, So this is just over the last decade or so, maybe 15 years. These are the small changes that have happened over the industry. It's happened more towards the last 5 years than the previous 10, but um, obviously the disposable incomes have become higher. So people are spending more on experiences like travel. Uh, Booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb are the internet and technology part that have actually come in and really changed the way the industry works. The millennials have actually really changed the way travel is consumed. So because of them consuming data on Instagram and other social media platforms, it's really changed the way that people travel as of today. The need for travel is not just for travel, but it's also soul searching and all the other, I don't know, spiritual stuff that goes along with it. So it's not just I have to go see this monument. It is I have to go here and experience this and experience multiple other things. Responsible and eco-friendly is something that is just starting to come out because of the whole climate change discussion. But that is something that has started and picked up quite considerably over the last couple of years. And actually, one of the biggest reasons for change in the travel industry has been the low cost airlines across the board. It started off in Europe and then obviously moved everywhere, including Asia. And low cost airlines in Asia have completely changed the way that people travel, because people that could not afford to travel otherwise earlier are now traveling dime a dozen. Just take a look at the number of flights to Thailand from India over the last 2 years that have popped up. And the numbers are just incredible. Um, and up until COVID, the world had become a smaller place and quite open and quite free. But just now, obviously, it seems like it might become a little distant for at least the next year, but hopefully not for me. uh, right. So these are the few travel trends that have been going on at least in 2019 to 2020. Rise in experiential travel. I'm sure all of you have heard of this coin phrase that people have come up with, which is experiential travel, which is traveling for an experience or something to do rather than just going to a city and seeing it. So this is from a consumer survey done by the American Society of Travel Association, which is 67% consumers would rather spend money on activities than on an expensive hotel, which just goes to say that people are now spending on, say, things like a 5-day climb up to Mount Kilimanjaro rather than staying in the base of Kilimanjaro and looking at it. Or doing a liveaboard in Raja Ampat in Indonesia rather than actually staying in a luxury hotel. So these are the kind of small changes that are happening in the market. The growing importance of travel marketplaces. Now, this is very interesting, where um, places like Viator, Get Your Guide, Klook is the new one in the market. These have exponentially grown over the last 2-3 years, and they're a profitable business making entities. They're not the burn rate kind of entities as of now. They all make genuine amount of money from commissions. And lots of people use this whether when they're already in the destination or pre-book it for everything to do in a destination, because that's become which goes along with the whole experiential travel bit I just spoke about. Responsible travel and carbon neutral travel is the other big thing, where people are now, even us, for example, are asking all our clients to pay for planting trees before they take a flight to India, so they can offset part of the carbon that they're going to emit during the trip. More local experiences with local craftsmen or local trekking experts, or even eco-friendly and NGO-based tours where you go to an NGO who's doing some handicraft work and supporting local women. That a lot of these kind of trips or tours are happening, and not just singular day tours, but even like an 8-day tour, for example, you can do across Jaisalmer to Jodhpur over 8 days with a camel herder and his family, which keeps shuffling between both. Then there's obviously increase in mobile bookings through apps, which is, I guess, all of us have booking.com, Airbnb, Make My Trip, Clear Trip on our phone. So it's so convenient to either book a flight or anything. And obviously all the ones which I spoke about earlier have apps as well. And it's super convenient to book, keep on your phone, the works. And personalization for the consumer. This is actually something that's coming up now, where over the last couple of years, everyone has slowly started understanding that the consumer doesn't want to go through tons of information. Just a very interesting statistic, anyone booking a trip on average goes through 42 websites before they even start planning their trip, which means that you're spending close to 100 hours, or anything ranging from 70 to 100 hours, which is 4 to 5 days in planning a trip. Again, the American Association has basically taken this and put a figure that if you use a travel agency, you're technically saving $1,000, which I don't agree with fully, but that's the interesting thing that's happening, because everyone wants to do what they like. They don't just want to pick up a package and run with it. Now, I'm just going to let you guys read some of this yourself. But we all know the travel industry is really big. What's interesting here is the digital growth that's happened, where it's nearly 25% of almost all the income that's happening online just now, whether it be through direct bookings from the hotels, airlines. Literally almost everyone is booking 75% of their trip online, whether it be a 4-day holiday or a 10 to 14-day holiday. That's and the last.
Harsh, can't hear you. Harsh,
mic is muted suddenly.
Harsh, your voice has gone mute.
Can't hear you.
Harsh.
Sorry guys, I don't know what happened. Suddenly, I don't know, it just came back on its own. So nothing, I don't know. Maybe just fluctuation in internet.
Maybe Make My Trip sabotaged.
Okay. Sorry, just a sec. Was I? So,
can others go on mute, please?
Yeah. So I was saying that. Yeah, I was saying that two very interesting things is actually when the inquiries come in for most people. Someone's on. Can someone mute? Can everyone mute themselves, please?
Guys, please go on mute.
मेरी माँ ने वाईफाई लगा
Okay. Right. So most inquiries actually come in on a Monday, and the least inquiries come in on a Saturday. This is for most tour companies that are booking full tours, like a 10-day holiday or a 12-day holiday. And the average trip duration for long international holidays across the world, this is not a specific to any destination, any country, is 10 to 14 days on average. Europeans take longer holidays while Indians, Asians take.
Harsh, just a sec.
Yeah.
Aditya, Alok, Jayan, Ravi Valecha, please go on mute, guys. Ravi, Mr. Ravi
I was on
Valecha.
mute, guys. I was on mute,
Yeah, but now I can hear you. Please go on
and
mute
now
again.
I put it on unmute.
Yeah. Mr. Veera Mahendra, please.
Yeah. As well.
Jayan, you're also on. Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Go ahead, Harsh.
Yeah. And so, as I said, Europeans tend to take longer holidays, but Europeans and Australians, but Indians, Asians, even Americans tend to take slightly shorter holidays of 10 to 14 days. Next, I'm just going to quickly go through the next 3-4 slides, which is taking you through the different kind of users, right? Which is Generation Z, which is the new one. But the key thing here to look at is the number of days they travel per year and where their decisions influence from. So Generation Z tends to travel for 29 days a year, which is 3 to 4 short holidays and 1 long holiday. And 90% of their decisions of where to travel are based on social media. This is from an Expedia study, but this is extremely interesting to understand the consumer mindset just now. And you'll see that almost 40% of them travel for a special event, which again connects with the experiential travel bit that I was talking about. You have millennials who travel the most. They travel for almost 35 days a year, which means 2 long holidays at least and a couple of short holidays. And and luckily for me or other people who are not so great at social media, their decision is based partially on advertising and partially on social media. But a lot of it is dependent on what their friends have done. That's a big influencer currently. Generation X travel the least. I guess they're the ones that want to save up the most money. And yeah, and most of them book through an OTA, which is also interesting because that means they're just doing shorter holidays and not going because maybe they work the most. And lastly, the baby boomers would travel for around 27 days. And what they also do use OTAs the most or direct websites the most. Which actually brings me to the next point, which is when you look at a comparison of how much people are booking online versus booking on travel agencies like me, you're looking at almost 72% that book online directly. So either with the hotel or airline or tour company, like a day tour company, or a booking.com. Only the other around 23-25% book using an agency. But surprisingly, the people using an agency, which is a 23%, over the last 4 years has gone up from around 18-19% to a 23%. So there's a slight switch back to a travel agency per se. Out of all the OTAs that are used, booking.com and Expedia, along with all their partner companies, which is Agoda and Skyscanner, Kayak, which are all owned by the similar 2 companies, combined for almost 80% of all major OTA revenues, which is massive. So, which always goes underplayed that there are really only 2 really big players in the online booking segment. And people tend to always not realize that because they have like 5 brands under that. So, yeah. Okay. So this for me is my pros and cons of picking either an OTA or not using an OTA to do bookings. I personally use OTAs a lot for all my bookings. when I travel because it's convenient, and I do a lot of short trips. So I do use OTAs a lot, but they're not always the best for everyone. So in terms of the pros for an OTA like a booking.com, it would be flexible bookings, loyalty points, obviously, so you can be a genius customer or a good customer, so they get you better discounts. It's great for short stays or for a business trip where you're traveling tomorrow. You can quickly book your hotel next to the airport and you're done, and you pay at checkout, which is a great thing, and it's super easy to book, right? The con is it's not always the best price like you would imagine. Other wholesalers or other websites or even agencies can actually get much better rates because they have existing great relationships. And OTAs are not the most liked by the hotel industry. We'll come to that a little later. There's obviously no personalization. So if you're going on a holiday and you want something very specific, you might not be able to find it online. And the last one for me is actually a major problem, which is the problem of plenty. So if today I go to a booking.com and I want to go stay in Istanbul, I have no clue where to start based on my preferences. Even though they have all the filters of 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, there's just thousands and thousands of options. And how do I know which one is in the best location, which is the place where I should be going depending on my interests? And it's just extremely complicated. And it takes a lot of research for me to get to the point of saying, okay, I want to live in this area in this type of hotel. So the problem of plenty is something that these websites are currently going through, and they will, I guess, change that in the coming few years. Now, coming to a travel agency, the pros and cons of it would be, the pros are obviously you can get really off the beaten path options because someone has experienced it, done it themselves, and then telling you to do it. It's hassle-free for longer trips. Obviously, you get personalized attention and tips and on-trip assistance. So if something goes wrong, you have someone to fall back on rather than a call center somewhere in the world where you're like, oh, my hotel is not available. And they're like, sorry, we can't help you. While the cons are, obviously, it's a lot more expensive, or a little more expensive because you are paying for the service. It's not as flexible once booked. So sometimes cancellation policies don't match, and you have to pay in advance. Most agencies would take at least a chunk of the money from you, and then you pay the balance. But it's not as easily done because you're putting that sum of money. So you have to have that trust in whoever you're booking with. Last slide for me. Right. And this is my opinion, and something that I have seen over the course of the last year is there's lots of self-planning websites within India and outside of India which have suddenly risen or started doing well and getting a lot of funding also. Pick Your Trail, Ithaka, they're just two of the names that come off the top of my head. And Inspiroc is actually a very interesting one as well. They have been recently bought over by Make My Trip, and it could be the phase which Make My Trip is looking at going into, which is you as a consumer planning your own trip online. Not many people have succeeded in doing it well, but there has been considerable improvement in the way people have managed to help you plan your own trip. So take you through each step, break it down from transport to hotel to activities, and have the entire sphere of your trip under one roof. It's still very far away from being a perfect model, but it has started working a lot better. OTAs have already started this, at least some of them have, like Klook and Get Your Guide, where the results, when you search for an activity or a city, come up based on your earlier previous bookings and preferences. So say you're an adventure person and have always chosen tours based on adventure, they will always show you those first in just terms of the results. But even this is still very far away from most of the hotels because it's still based on advertising money and not on actual consumer driven preferences. But they are looking at changing this, I know, and they're looking at changing it slowly but surely. travel agencies like the Thomas Cooks of the world will have to adapt. Obviously, one of them has gone bust, but the old school travel agencies will have to adapt themselves to gain more business or be satisfied with the little bit of business that they're going to get. But their chunk and share of business is definitely going to reduce over the next few years if they don't adapt to the new age technologies. And technology and software is to understand the consumer and provide a correct package. So most agencies are going to need something in the back end which is going to help them understand the consumer better. Currently, a lot of it is manual, a lot of it is people doing it, people who've been doing it for a while, who understand what the consumer wants over the telephone and further. But obviously, going forward, that's going to shift to technology and even chatbots and artificial bots and whatnot to figure out what a client wants and then give it to them as fast as possible. Because the minute a human interface happens, the speed and time of giving a client a package or an itinerary just increases by 2x or 3x amount of minutes. So that was my last slide of the presentation. What I actually wanted to do is have a nice free-flowing discussion on what are your thoughts on the above few slides, and if you all have any questions, answers, and obviously debates that I am welcoming people to debate with me as well. So yeah, Nikhil.
So guys, for a change, the floor is open quite early now. So CP can start.
I prefer having a free-flowing discussion.
Yeah, that's okay. So please introduce yourself and shoot a question.
Harsh, Girish, MBM 97. I just wanted to know, what does your company do and how does it compare to, say, a Thomas Cook or say Make My Trip? Where do you stand?
Okay, so we like calling ourselves an in-between guidebook like a Lonely Planet and a travel agency like a Thomas Cook. So what we essentially have done is we've kind of at the half point where we do a full package for you, but it's fully personalized. So the first process of getting to know the consumer takes us longer, and then we go and plan something for you. We don't have fixed packages. We create something based on your preferences, who you are, who you're traveling with, your age, which countries you have been to before, multiple different scenarios, and then we plan something. So we've built an entire software to do this for us. So we're a half tech, half human interface kind of company just now. We cater to roughly 1,000 trips a year, which is around 3,000 to 4,000 passengers.
So why would somebody come to you versus going to a Thomas Cook?
Because a Thomas Cook doesn't offer them a completely personalized option. A Thomas Cook will say, I have a 14-day trip to India. You will start at 9 o'clock. You will end at 6 o'clock. Example. What we offer is, you are going to the following 6 destinations. You want to spend 1 day in the hotel, you can do it. I am giving you an entire list of the best things I would do in the city. And you can go and do all of them. And I will help you do all of that. Or you can do nothing. It's for an independent traveler who still wants to do what they want to do, but doesn't want to be restricted by a package tour.
And just last question, what's your opinion of Ithaca, something which has been bought by Thomas Cook? You mentioned something of, you mentioned a third player tying up with or bought by Make My Trip. What's your take on Ithaca?
So I loved Ithaca personally. I have used them before. Ithaca as an app was fantastic. They discontinued the app, which I was a little sad with. Ithaca was a perfect personalization. For me, they have been the best. They've reached the best stage of the technology and personalization combination. They've managed to give me an exact trip that I would have really liked to take. And I did actually use one of their trips when I went to Southeast Asia recently, like 2-3 years ago. And it was almost like really nicely done, great interface. But over the last 6 months, I've seen their quality drop a lot. So I don't know if it's because they've been bought by Thomas Cook, and because maybe the founders are like, we don't really care that much anymore.
Okay.
But Ithaka's
Yeah.
presentation on their tech was fantastic.
This is Alok here. A question then: if it was so tech driven, shouldn't the quality have remained? Or you're saying the human intervention was so much that
No, I'm sure that
this interest is dropped off
actually what
the.
they did is, I don't know, they discontinued the app, which I don't know why. So, because you can't find the Ithaka app anymore, it's just from their website. And what they had was, they had a bunch of questions that would lead you to your trip. But that has also stopped now. It's become more package driven, at least over the last 6-7 months. So I'm not sure if that's done on purpose, or are they revamping the full thing and going to bring it live again. I am not purview to that.
There is one question Alert he has posted here. Just look at the chat. If you can see it, Harsh.
Yeah.
You just answer it.
1 second.
He says, who's your market?
Right. Okay. So yes, my market is more overseas tourists coming to India, but we do have a lot of corporate people from India who use our services for say 6 to 7 days. Indians. So also just a small point, which our business model is slightly different, where we're a very transparent company. Every single element of a person's trip is given to you in clean pricing, which includes every hotel, every train, every flight, every car. Everything is given with a price breakdown, and we charge a fixed service fee to do everything for you guys. So it's basically around 20,000 rupees for 2 weeks of travel. And yeah. So that's why we get a lot of overseas tourists, but also now we've started getting, over the last 2 years, we've started getting a lot of Indian inquiries as well. I don't know how that's happened, because it's not been a conscious effort to market there, but they have come.
Okay. Hi, Harsh. This is Vivek.
Hi, Vivek.
MBM 98.
Yeah.
My question was, you mentioned that you are somewhere in between a tech company and the Lonely Planet.
Correct.
Who fulfills the Lonely Planet element of your company then?
Okay, so the Lonely Planet fulfillment happens internally in our team. I have been traveling India since I was 16 years old. So has my business partner since he was 18, 19. And our team now, on a yearly basis, we visit every single state in India. And we go to every single city once a year. And obviously meet up with old vendors and research new things to do in each city each time. Also visit as many restaurants as possible and try them out and see which ones we like, which ones we don't like. And that's how we're kind of giving super personalized information to each and every one of our clients. And the way that we disseminate this information is what makes it quite interesting to the client as well. And that's how we do the Lonely Planet bit. That
between you and your partner, between you and your partner,
yeah,
there can be a few areas of interest that can be covered. But for a lot of other elements, do you have third-party vendors supplying information or stories to you?
So we do a combination of things. So we have 6 people in my team who go and research every year, other than me and my business partner. We have local people in each and every state. So I have a local person in Rajasthan, a local person in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, who we use as local vendors in case anything goes wrong. They're my team, my backup there. And they do a lot of the local research also for us on a more regular basis than we would go. So as you said, that is it is a combination of all of these things. And specific regions, say like a Leh or a Northeast, we use local companies who are smaller, but more focused just on that particular area.
Okay.
So that's how we've kind of divided it up. Sorry, Alabi, just to answer your question. So in terms of, do our competitors all charge similar amounts? I don't know a lot of companies that are doing the service fee model in India. Most people are still giving like a package to a kind of model. But if I do a apple to apple comparison on how much it would cost to book a trip with another company or our company, the prices remain relatively similar. If not, maybe we might be cheaper in some instances and maybe a little more expensive in some, depending on the hotels that you pick or how long you have a car or things like that, because our car fees are a little more expensive. Sorry, I can't hear you. Hello?
Hi, Blaze here.
Yeah, can you speak up? I can't hear you too clearly.
My name is Blaze.
Yeah, hi Blaze, how are you?
Fine, fine. I just want to know, in this, it could be one of them which will take a big beating given the COVID scenario.
Yes.
So, are you doing things to COVID proof, or to, while COVID is in the background, when you come out, you'll be stronger? Are you doing things like that? Are you planning for it? Is there anything in that line?
Yes. So COVID has hit our business tremendously. We actually estimate at least a year of no revenue, or maybe 6 months to 8 months of almost zero revenue. So what we have done in this process is update all of our processes, which we probably could not update, which includes our backend software updates, improvement in our backend software client interface. We were going to actually launch same version of India someday as Asia someday, which was going to target Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, and Indonesia. So we're pushing behind doing a lot of SEO and written content for that, for our marketing. And we are actually trying to come up with products, I think, catered more to the Indian audience. Come up with something for the Indian audience in specific, because I feel that the Indian audience will travel before the foreigners will, at least within India. And once things open up, maybe for Indians, we've kind of going slightly more the package way of doing 4-day, 5-day trips with extremely boutique hotels, which we work with, which not too many other agencies work with, and do like a 4-day experiential trip, say around Munnar or around any one of the destinations in India where we have a hotel which we work with very, very closely, and maybe give a lot of room nights. So kind of drive the price down and try and fill their rooms, so which helps them and helps us. So we're trying to work on some of these aspects, but it is a tough time just now for us.
Thanks.
Hi Harsh.
Hi.
This is Vishal from MBM 02.
Hi Vishal.
So we are based in Kolkata. We run a sports travel company.
Oh
so
wow!
Basically,
cool.
an events travel company.
Nice.
So I was wondering if you guys cater to groups of the personalized tour that you said.
Right.
Do you also cater to groups? Because we always have groups going with us.
Yes.
And we are looking for a partner who do non-travel, sort of experience.
Correct. So yes, we do. We've catered to groups of up to 20, 30 packs. We haven't done the mice size groups of 1,000. Mice basically means I don't know if everyone knows, but just for everyone's reference.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So basically the really large corporate gatherings or events of like 500 packs and 600 passengers, but we do 30, 40, 50 passengers. We do quite a few groups. We actually work very closely with a lot of travel influencers and bloggers who bring down groups themselves of 20, 30 passengers each year. So we've been doing that over the past 2 years. So we do definitely work. We can connect later, Vishal. I'll be happy to discuss the same with you.
Absolutely. Done.
There's a question.
Yeah. Do you do cruises too? Sorry. No, we haven't started cruises yet because I have absolutely no idea about them. We were recently approached by the Jalesh Cruises guys. And yeah, but no, we don't do any cruises yet. Actually, I wanted to ask a question to you guys, maybe also, if anyone wants to take a pot shot at it. What do you guys think of the personalization versus OTA bookings? As in, what does everyone here prefer? As in general, do people use a lot of the booking.com because, or do you all do people still use traditional travel agencies?
Speaking for myself, I use booking.com and other search engines.
Correct.
And I travel on my own. I don't use personalized travel agencies.
Correct.
In fact, I go on the internet and see the travel agencies. Like, for example, I went to Croatia a few years back, and through the websites, I got connected with a personalized travel agency there. Because what I've seen is that because commissions add ho jata hai, yahan ka bhi commission aur uska bhi. The only thing is you have to do a little research. And the thing is that one thing about we Indians is the reason they want to go for personalized from India is हमको 14 दिन में 10 country करना है. But if you really want to travel, like I travel, I spend in one city 3 to 4 days. So it gives you more time to see.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we Indians, हमको tick मारने का रहता है. एक दिन में हमने. So that is the reason where I don't know. I mean, this is my.
So actually, that's a very interesting point, Nikhil, because that's actually come up in our research, which Malini, I know you had asked me to send you the results. I'll send you the results next week once we are done with the polling. But Nikhil, that's a very interesting point. Is that we are encouraging slow travel. So that as a company, that's something that we have really pushed because that's the way we like to travel. And what we've realized is it takes at least 3 days to see a city.
Voice breaking.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Correct.
It takes a minimum of.
What you said is correct. 3 days.
Yeah, a minimum of 3 days. And
because if you go to Europe, first you have to understand the geography.
Correct.
Of the contours of the place. And the second day you choose where you want to go, and then you want to do 1 day side trip.
Correct.
Away from castle or something.
Correct. So we've actually realized that the toughest part is deciding where to go, and that's where we have focused our entire. That's where we have focused our entire efforts on, is that figuring out and helping people decide on where to go, more than anything else, where to go and what to do there. The stay is the easier part.
Stay is technically no longer an issue part at all anywhere.
Correct.
So that part, that is not a consideration set at all now going forward. But on the experiential trips and the experiential travel, on the personalization element, my suspicion is that not that each agency or each AI based solution is able to actually give me the option on each category. For example, if I were to do Chasing the Festivals story in India, there are lots and lots of locations that I have done on the Indian circuit, chasing the festivals. Okay. Each state organizes some festival or the other, and it's an annual feature, from a Khajuraho festival to a Konark festival to another. So chasing that experience is something that the personalized engines can't do. Right. Another thing in a recent thought that I had and I wanted to work on, and I did, was chasing the sunsets. Okay, there are about 16 odd locations in India which are considered the best sunsets. None of the agencies was able to provide me with any input or plan that thing for me. But that was my requirement or the requirement of a group of people. So then I realized that the category called personalized trips or personalization has to be category specific, or they can address at best 5 categories within a company.
Fair.
So if there's somebody who's doing sports tourism and sports-based travel, events, etc., okay. So they can probably do a couple of others. But if you're doing adventure travel, not everybody can offer adventure. And then they can also do cultural. And then they can also do festivals. It's not possible.
Okay. So that's where I think the network within a country actually helps. So that's where a use of a lot of local vendors, local bodies, which actually help with the specialization. So I'll give you a small example. When we have something to do with adventure, we have teamed up with 5 to 6 different people within the country who are so-called experts in adventure. So for example, there's Aquaterra Adventures in the north, who do all the treks, river rafting, etc., etc., etc. So if there is something of that, then essentially I'm using them as my source or point of contact to curate it along with me. Now, obviously, as you said, it's not possible to do everything across the length and breadth of something like India. And it's not, hence you cannot do anything across the world either. I think you can achieve, I think, a 30 to 40% of it. And the rest, I agree with you. It's not possible to do everything for everyone. And especially, like, for example, for us, we can't do anything for anyone with a disability because I don't have cars with capabilities for disability people. So that is a restriction right there. So agree. Okay, question from Malini. In terms of the most offbeat destinations in India, we have catered to. So in India, in terms of offbeat destinations, honestly, it's not really offbeat anymore, but there's a lot of Lahore and Spiti that we have done. There's also a lot of parts of the Northeast in terms of towards Arunachal and which we have done as well. And otherwise, there's lots of smaller towns, even in touristy places like Rajasthan. There's the leopard part of it near Kumbhalgarh. There's a small place called Javai, which we do send a lot of people to. There's a lot of small castle towns in and around all the big cities, but they say 60, 70, 80 kilometers from any of the big cities. So we do offbeat destinations like that as well. And Orissa actually has been massively on a lot of our trips recently. We've been sending a lot of people to Orissa, especially the rural side towards the Andhra border, which has worked very well.
Thanks.
And
hello, Harsh.
Yeah.
Hello, Harsh.
Hello, yes.
I'm Pisit MM87 from Bangkok.
Hi.
I just have a question for you.
Yeah.
You may have talked about this already, but I missed it. Sorry. No. Please repeat again. How you charge your client? Is a fixed fee, or what is your fee for charging your client?
Yeah, it is a fixed service fee for 2 weeks for 2 people. And then it changes depending on the number of days or number of people that are in the trip. So as of now, our fees are $400 for 2 weeks for 2 people.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problems. So Vasu.
Harsh, I had a couple of questions. Your clients buy Forex from whom? That is one. Second, how much is this destination management service? How important is that from a travel market perspective, a player there? How much, how destination management services, how critical is that?
Sorry,
first is Forex. Forex, from which player does your typical customer buy Forex?
So the thing is, we haven't done a lot of outbound tours yet. So we haven't gotten down the road where my client is asking me where I should buy my dollars or euros from, a typical Indian. But if it was so, I would obviously do it through my banking system, or if I could figure out a way where I could be the provider, then I would try and do that. But that's not something we haven't gotten that far, to be very honest with you. But using a destination management service in the location is very helpful, but it is very expensive. So we have actually tried to do all of Asia without using a destination management. We've tried to tie up with very good local car vendors or drivers or guides and use them instead of using a company. Because the minute you use a company, like Nikhil mentioned earlier, the cost just adds up. And then the client ends up paying my service fee, the destination management service fee, whoever the destination management service is using, their service fee. So it just builds up to be very expensive. So we've tried to go directly to the source to cut off the middleman per se. But I'll be honest, this is not something we have 100% tested yet, because we were going to launch 2 months ago, but obviously we couldn't. So yeah.
Hey, Harsh, this is Pandan here.
Hi,
Just
Pandan.
a quick question. Like, how long have you been in business? And I think I might have missed it because I joined a little late.
I've been in business for around 9 years now.
Okay, and how about India Someday?
So India Someday, as in I started India Someday right after AIM, and that was my thesis for AIM as well. And I started India Someday right after, and that's what I'm still doing. So
did you mention? Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
Sorry, no. So I have been in the travel industry only since India Someday. Before that, I have not been in the travel industry at all.
Okay, I think I remember hearing you a few moments back. You mentioned about 100 bookings in a year, right? 1,000 bookings in a year,
1,000
right?
trips, 1,000 trips, yeah.
1,000 trips. So, like, if you how does that 1,000 trip basically sustain your business, or like how are you planning? And with the COVID thing, it'll even more go down, right? As per expectation. I hope not, for sure.
No, so as I said earlier, the COVID situation is essentially I have put my business into hibernation mode. That's the right way to say.
Same here, man.
Yeah. So what we have.
But I'm in a different line of business. But yeah, it's on hibernation.
Yeah. So what essentially we've done is we had ramped up our team just recently to around 20 people. 1,000 trips is more than enough to sustain the business. We obviously have enough savings to sustain our business even for 2 or 3 years. We started the business from 16,000 rupees. That was the capital which we invested in the business. As of today, our turnover is roughly around 20 crores. Yeah, so it's a tricky time for us, but someone has asked me also earlier, and I'll just mention that, what are the margins in your business? So connecting with this, I'll just discuss that. So the margins are a little tricky to explain because a lot of it is throughput. So because we're collecting the money on behalf of the clients to pay the hotels or to pay the flights or so on and so forth. So the margins are more, let's say an average trip is 2 lakhs, and on average, I am say making 30,000 rupees as a profit on the trip. So you can look at the margins as being 1/6, so around 15-16%. But this doesn't include all the overheads and everything. So you're looking at a roughly 5% net margin overall. So it's a slightly lower margin, but so hence we need to do more volume.
But I have a question.
Yeah, Nick.
Now you're in this business for 9 years, correct?
Correct.
Any other ancillary business which will help your this business, either looking or backward, whatever in the value chain, which can help you sustain? Because travel, as you know, I might book service from you, but if there is one small hitch from you, I go to somebody else.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So any sustenance plans?
So what we have done is we have kind of gone slightly, we have gotten our own cars now. So we have started getting also into the car hire side of things, where we own the car, but it's run by my local vendor. So I am not responsible for the daily running of it or maintenance of it, because there is a trust factor, but the car is owned by me, but just maintained by him. And we do a profit sharing on that. And we have started getting into designing our own daily tours. So say if you go to Jaipur just now, around 40-50 kilometers from Jaipur, there's a very local handicraft person that's been doing handicrafts for 20-30 years. They've done it for all the Oberoi hotels. So we've tied up with a lot of these handicraft local people and are doing tours to those handicraft towns as such, as day tours from a city. And that's actually been which is something that can start up. But overall, from a sustenance of thinking that was the business going to completely shut down, I'll be honest, that's not something that ever came to our mind. But we have
how about the scalability? Because from what I understood from your model, it's
Correct.
either your local contacts or your team basically curating experiences, curating stay locations, everything, right?
Correct.
So if I like, I'm from the Northeast, so I know the place in and out. So there are a lot of places where you might not even get those local people who are experienced enough to curate something for you, right?
Correct.
And these are actually the things which would put you into the map, if I think of it that way, since
Correct.
you are an experiential, right? So how do you think how scalable that would be?
So that's actually one of the things which has always been our challenge, to be honest. Scalability has been our challenge. So what we have looked at is scaling what we can scale, as in terms of the personalization of where you should be going, and trying to slowly build the experience side of it, right? So as you said, if it's in the Northeast, I might not be able to give as many experiences as maybe a Rajasthan or a Kerala or a Tamil Nadu or a Delhi, Himachal, Punjab example.
Yeah.
So what we have done is, where we can build the experiences, we are going in and building them. But obviously, to do it across the board, that's the scalability part, which is a little difficult. But we are using the tech side of it to get as many experiences as possible. So for example, in the Northeast, there's the guy that founded the Thar or developed the Thar car. He runs tours in the Northeast. And that's like one of the experiences that we give. And that way we're trying to aggregate as many as possible. And now we have a steady flow of people contacting us saying, can you sell my experience? Can you sell my experience? Because they know of it through word of mouth. But there's no large scalability that I can look at and say, okay, over the year, I'm going to get every single experience that is possible.
Yeah, but like what I could think of is basically building a partner network wherein you incentivize that partners,
Correct.
Right? That might work your way, because there would be a lot of people like, I'm just being biased to the Northeast because I'm from there. But what happens is that there are local people as well who are getting into the tech side of the businesses, right?
Correct.
So these people, they would obviously look at these untapped markets, right? Because
so I have sorry, I can't hear you.
Delhi or Punjab has reached, it's quite huge, right? There are so many players. The competition is really, really huge, competing with them, right? So compared to the Northeast, where these people might actually want to get on with you.
Correct.
Basically. So yeah, I think that might be a good option for you, because technically there are people who are getting into this line of business. The only thing is that they are not getting scope. So if you basically publish or market a partnership model, it might work to the best of your
Thanks.
capabilities.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
Hi, this is Alok here, MBM 96. But to some extent, I guess scalability and being bespoke and customized, there are sort of two different sides of the coin, right? There's only so much scalability you can have if you want to be a personalized experiential company, because otherwise you need to be a platform aggregating experiences.
Correct.
Then that's a different story altogether. So
yeah,
in my books, everybody needs to find their own space, and you can't just chase scalability for the sake of chasing scalability, because then you won't be different. I might go to a platform and just buy an experience in Northeast, and you can say, look, I don't know this guy Alok who is in Northeast, but it's on my platform. You can try it, but then you lose the trust. So for your question that you asked, what do sort of people use for booking? For me, it's actually like you said in the numbers, it's coming back to the human interaction, or maybe agencies to some extent, because the trust is missing.
Right.
Now we all hear that somebody was saying that the destination is almost it's a foregone conclusion. But in my mind, no, because what are we trusting? Ratings, and I think all of us know ratings can be bought, right? So there are
yes,
bots who are
absolutely. They
just
can be
pushing
bought.
ratings for
Definitely. At least TripAdvisor is
different
definitely
locations. So
bought. So
yeah, so
Yes,
I
yes,
don't even
absolutely.
trust that anymore.
Bought.
So for me, it comes back to being customized and personalized, because all the hotels will be showing 8 plus, 9 plus, 10 plus, whatever. And we all know at the back end, they're sort of bot ratings. So how can I trust? So for me, the biggest thing becomes trust. And therefore, to some extent, the agencies, if they do a good job, they should retain their space and maybe grow, because it's a fine line. It'll oscillate. The price may not be the only thing that people will be looking for. Yes, there'll be certain category which only looks at price, but there will be a substantial size of the market which may look at aspects other than simply price.
That's actually an analysis we have seen. But I think I'm running out of time. So should we do a last? Should we do a?
The new person who wants to talk, yeah, Rishabh. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rishabh. Rishabh, you want to...
Hello?
Rishabh? Anybody who has not asked a question, if they want to...
Darshan here, I wanted to ask a question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Darshan. Can you hear me, Harsh?
I can hear you, Darshan. Tell me.
Yeah. So, listening to you, it's what you've done is a very interesting concept. It's basically when you look at the hotel industry, especially 5-star and above, they have what is called a concierge desk.
Correct.
So what you've actually put together is a concierge desk which is working even before you enter the hotel.
Correct.
And while listening to you, I also realized that a lot of the hotels which are one level below, which are mid-segment, and that's the large base of rooms that is there in India today, which could include the lemon trees of the world and the ferns of the world and keys. Now, these hotels, they really don't have a concierge desk. So what gets me thinking here is that if you can actually work the same platform out as a technology solution to their customers once they walk in, then you don't care whether they've come through your booking agent to the hotel, but everything thereafter can be with you. When they will be, the concierge desk can be run. You don't need a person there. You can actually run it through a kiosk of sorts.
Correct.
Just a thought that occurred while talking, when you were talking, right? And the only other, other qualitatively competition for you is Amex, which has been around, and they now run quintessentially, which is another company.
I use them
that
a lot.
competes with you directly.
Yeah.
And but there it's like a club, so you have to pay like a 10 lakh rupees or something to get in, and then you get the experiences around the world. So these are two thoughts I had, and maybe you can just think through and come back.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
So guys, thank you, Harsh.
Thanks so much, Nikhil.
Yeah.
Harsh.
Rishabh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Harsh. This is Rishabh this side.
Hi Rishabh.
I'm from cohort 8, 2013 batch. I recently ventured into the travel industry myself. We are mainly focusing into the outbound domain.
Okay.
I didn't go through your entire presentation. I was a little late, but then what I could gather from the discussion was that the way you are charging is on this service fee is collective based on the number of days rather than an overall package that's I think, overall going on into the industry. So I just wanted to know, maybe because you're more mainly focused on inbound, it won't be the case with you. But then isn't it a problem that when you give out the details of the services and everything, then the customer tries to, put it on, pick the same services on a la carte basis based on Viator, Booking, and these other public platforms rather than going through you? Once you've already, given them an itinerary and all the details required, which they need to go for the trip.
So that's the interesting part, is that's the feedback that we got from a lot of our when we are also starting our outbound now. So that's the feedback that we got a lot. So what we have done for the Indian audience is actually have a different model altogether, to be honest. For the Indian audience, we have a 3-segment model, which is basically you just take the plan for me for say 1,500 rupees. I will give you the entire plan, which is personalized, and you can go and book it on your own.
Okay.
The second would be I help you do all the bookings on booking.com, on Viator, on anything, and I am not responsible when you are in the country, but I will do all the bookings for you. So I charge you more for that. And the third is then the full blown, I will do everything for you, give you on ground support. And I have based my service fee depending on which 3 of these you choose. But essentially to take the plan, I will be taking 1,500 rupees. If people paid, I don't know the stats on that yet. We haven't started that fully yet. We haven't launched, unfortunately.
Got it. Slightly.
So Harsh, thank you very much.
Thanks,
It was
Nikhil.
a very interesting topic, and I mean, compared to the other webinars, the presentation was less and interaction was more, because being travel, everybody can talk about it and get their views. So my only request is these slides, if you can just share with me, we can put it up on Facebook, so people, and also your recording, we are in the midst of using this recording for the benefit of other people. We will be signing a clause with you all people, and we plan to have a web library as such in the future that people can approach. So that is in the works. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks everyone, guys. Thank you.
We just hope, Nikhil, you will have some more like this coming up in the near future.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I'm happy to chat with everyone once this is over, but thanks guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Harsh.
Thanks,
Nice of
Harsh.
you. Nice of you.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.